Well, blessed everybody, and welcome to our study through the book of Joel. Again, just 3 verses today. I know quite often we have a lot of verses, but these verses are so important. I want us to take a little extra time to make sure that we read them because these things are significant. As a matter of fact, these particular verses we're looking at today, if you do not know these verses right here, you will not properly understand the end time sequencing of things as far as like when the Lord is going to return and things like that. So here's Joel 2. Let me read it to you. I will display wonders in the sky and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. And it will come about that whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be delivered. For on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there will be those who escape, as the Lord said, even among the survivors whom the Lord calls. So we see some things right here. We see that before the day of the Lord, there's going to be wonders and signs in the sky and on earth. There'll be blood, fire, smoke, the sun turned to darkness and the moon to blood, then destruction from the Almighty. It's a day of clouds, of gloom, of darkness, a great and very awesome day. And then you see in the scripture, we just looked at a few of the cross references, but there's several places where this is referred to. Daniel called it as a time of distress such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. Jesus speaks of it in Matthew 24 in great detail. Okay, Jeremiah speaks of it as the day is great, there's none like it. He calls it the time of Jacob's distress. And we learn from the scripture that there will be those who are rescued and delivered and saved at that time. That's really important because if you come out of the background that I came out of, or a lot of us have come out of, people will speak of what's going to happen in the last times when the church is going to be snatched away, the rapture, when the Lord's going to come and all this. And generally speaking, most people are incorrect in what they think the Word says because they don't go back to the Old Testament to see what it says. These verses right here are pivotal to understand the timing. Jeremiah said that Jacob would be saved from his day of distress. You also see some things right here and out of my background again. You know, people say, well, up to a certain point in time you can be saved. After that, there's no chance for anybody. It's not necessarily true. You need to see what the Scripture says. Daniel said that it would be those of Israel whose names were found written in the book who would be saved. Joel in Acts said it would be those who call on the name of the Lord. Joel 2 said this, there will be those who escape, survivors whom the Lord calls. The question is, I got a bug going here, escape what? Escape what? Well, a lot of times people say, oh, he's talking about the Great Tribulation. He's talking about the wrath of God being poured out. People will say, well, isn't that the Great Tribulation? No. The Great Tribulation and the wrath of God are two different things. The wrath of God is God pouring forth His wrath upon unbelieving man. Okay, the Great Tribulation is the man of lawlessness, the Antichrist, pouring forth his wrath upon the woman and her offspring, upon Israel and the church. And boy, we must understand that distinction or you're going to get things totally confused in the Scripture. Isaiah 10 says that there will be those who escape and turn to the Lord. They will be called the remnant. Zechariah 13 says, only a third of the nation of Israel at that time will survive. They will call on His name and they will be refined. And this takes us to where it says in Romans right there that they will look upon Him whom they have crucified, Him whom they have pierced, and they will believe. The sad thing is 2/3 of those alive of the nation of Israel at that time will die. They'll perish because they've turned away from their God. Again, these verses are pivotal in understanding the time and the last day events, so I really encourage you to give heed to them, to seek the Lord, and pay attention to these passages as we go through the Word. You're going to find that the Lord is very clear about what's going to be happening in the last days. Again, I'm Dale from the Precept classes in Cullman, Alabama, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.